Welcome to the Curated Craftsman, a podcast where we'll learn about the hands, head, and heart behind creative entrepreneurs just like you. Kate Cook is the artistic drive behind Asphalt Canvas Custom Art and your host for this conversation about art, business, and belief.
Okay, today we are welcoming my friend Laura with Velasco Silversmithing. She is a silversmith I've followed on social media for quite a while. She is a ladysmith and she lives now in Alaska. I know that was a big move for you, but can you start by letting us know what your business is, what you do on a daily basis, or what you make?
So I work mostly with sterling silver. I just kind of started working with fine silver a little bit, but mostly I would say copper, sterling silver, and brass sometimes too.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, which is really weird because I see brass and I'm like, oh, that's not, it's just whatever, but it kind of looks like gold. So I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, okay, a little cheaper way to do something that gets that same look. But yeah, I make kind of like Southwestern style jewelry, try to incorporate, I guess, some of my background too. But really the purpose of my jewelry, or why I do it, is because it's like a grit thing for me. I don't know. I have to have somewhere to put all my energy and grit into. So my jewelry is very, I would say, pretty hefty. It's not dainty. It's very it's bold, I guess I should say. So that's kind of what my style is. I'm just kind of looking around oh, wow, yeah, this is really, there's nothing dainty about this whole space. But
That's
yeah,
so true.
Rings, bolo ties. I make little dog tags, as you've probably seen. Necklaces, just kind of all over the place. And
Yes, and I saw a lot of your descriptions, they say durable, which I think a durable good is very indicative of your style. And I like that you said gritty, because I could totally see that. Even just scrolling your Instagram for 3 seconds, it's durable, gritty. There's very, very dainty things, which is totally my jam. The more the better, kind of.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
have just a really cool, it is definitely Southwestern inspired, which is what initially drew me to you. Because here being in Texas, of course, that's primarily what I love wearing is turquoise and Southwestern inspired jewelry. But outside of that, since you've moved to Alaska, I've definitely noticed an influence with the fish there, the outdoors, the bears, things that people would resonate with Alaska immediately. So that is so cool to see it pick up through your work where you live.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
It's crazy because I thought I would for sure move up here, and it's a very small population in Alaska. In Anchorage alone is only 300,000 people, I think.
Wow.
But so there's not a ton of silversmiths up here, and it's growing a little bit. But when I came up here, I just didn't know what to expect for selling and everything. So a lot of people that are drawn to my jewelry up here are from Montana or Texas or somewhere from the Southeast. So, but then I'd see local people oh, that's cool. It looks like I'd see it in a Yellowstone or whatever. And I'm like, ooh, okay. So they're not into it as much. So I gotta
yeah.
that. But yeah, so that's kind of where that comes from, I guess.
And so do you so I saw you started taking custom orders for your ring, the specific style ring that was very popular. Do you take customs all the time, or just for that specific ring design?
I've been kind of off and on with customs. I'm taking them right now just because I'm trying to figure out, I guess, what people are liking these days. Because as you probably know, social media has changed a lot since I started, and it's very hard to reach people. It's hard to figure out how to sell things, honestly, if you're not right in front of people all the time or whatever. So I started taking customs just to kind of see okay, what are people looking for? What do they want? Because I can make all of these things, and if it doesn't resonate with anybody, they're not going to buy it. And I don't want them to if they don't like it. So it's off and on because customs can be very draining. I think a lot of artists could probably agree with that too, where it's it's not as much of your idea. But when I've noticed people have started to trust me, and they see my style. They like my style for a reason. So for the most part, they're pretty like, okay, I love this stone. Do whatever you need to do with it. Just this is just what I want. So it feels a little bit more of like a custom thing when really they do give me quite a bit of freedom of what to do. And it's
Yeah.
a challenge too.
Oh, yeah.
It's those people don't understand silversmithing and how it works, or even the cabochons and stuff like that. And so they'll come up with these just crazy ideas. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, hang on a second. But then I'm like, oh, wait a second, that's a challenge for me too. So why would I not? And
Yeah,
like,
because then you can go about like with your knowledge and
Mhm.
say like, how can I make this with what I do have in my tool belt or what I do know?
Yeah.
That's an interesting insight to use customs to figure out what the general public is kind of looking for. I've never had that perspective. That's a really cool insight. It's like, here, let's open up customs and see what I get the most requests for, and then kind of build off of whatever that is for your original work. That's a really cool way to think about it.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Honestly, they're fun. And it used to be dog tags. That was my thing when I first started. People wanted dog tags. Like I ran an ad for them, and I got so burnt out of them though. That's kind of why I stopped doing customs for a long time. I'm just doing this for production at this point, and it doesn't feel good. Full dog tag requests, and I'm like, okay, so that's not the thing anymore, and that's fine. It's totally fine. So
Wow, I love that. Well, let's talk a little bit about how you got into silversmithing. I think it's pretty fairly recent, like what, 4 or 5 years have you been doing this? When did you start and
yeah.
how did you start?
So yeah, it has been 5 years. So I'm originally from Minnesota, and
Okay.
I moved down to Arizona in 2019 for my full-time job at the time. They relocated me for like a bunch of changes that they were going through.
Okay.
And my college degree was mostly art. So I did like ceramics and some welding, woodworking, all that Minnesota stuff. I even did flint knapping in college, which was really cool. I still have the tools. When I moved on to Arizona, I couldn't take all that with me. I was just kind of cruising around to see like what kind of art classes they had, and jewelry making class looks kind of cool, like Southwest jewelry, I guess this is the thing down here. I'm really going to immerse myself in it.
That's
So
true.
I I took a beginning class at Harold Studio. They're in a new building now, but they're still business. They were
Okay.
fantastic. My instructor was so sweet. Her name was Cher, and she was this cute, teeny little lady, but she was just so cool. And it was a beginning class. Like it was just first time hands-on silver. This was very basic. It was cutting the metal, basic soldering stuff, and then our last ring, we actually got to use a stone of our choice and make whatever ring that was. It kind of came pretty, I don't want
Naturally.
to say easily, but yeah, naturally. That's
Yeah.
a better way to go about it.
No, I understand because I took a jewelry class in college and it did not come naturally and it was so stressful and frustrating. I was like, this is not for me. I love jewelry, but I'm not going to be the one making it.
Yes, yes, for sure. That's how
Yeah.
I feel with like every other thing now. I'm like, whoa, nope, gotta stick
Yes.
to silversmithing. Even cookie decorating on Christmas, I'm like, no,
I know people
that's
just
not for
assume because we're creative, they're like, oh, they're gonna have the best gingerbread house with the best cookies or whatever. You're like, no, that is not a thing.
no. Does
Yes.
not look good.
And so
Um,
you graduated when you took this class already? College? You graduated college
yep,
and you were like moving on. Okay.
yep, yeah.
Was your
When I
day-to-day
was,
job at all creative or were you just kind of looking for an outlet?
it
No.
was quite the opposite.
Yes, it always seems to be that way.
Yes, yeah, and I truly loved that job, but I think I
Yeah.
mostly loved the people.
That makes a
It
difference
was
for
very
sure.
stressful. It's a very, very stressful full-time job. And I tried doing ceramics full-time out of college,
Oh, okay.
and quickly realized that like once my bills started kicking in, I was like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna be good, at least until I can figure out how to make it profitable, I guess.
Yes, and you're kind of talking, I would imagine like the overhead of being a ceramicist is pretty gnarly with all their like electricity bills and things like that. Is that what you were talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was fortunate enough in college, so it was all undergrad, but I did take some master's level classes. And so we had our own studio, and I like made my own glazes with one of the professors, all the chemistry stuff, made my own clay, all that. It was so cool. But
Fun.
once I graduated and kind of had to start that on my own, I was like, whoa, this is a lot of investment. Much do I really love this? I needed quick money, and I was like, this isn't going to do it for me for now. So I was just going to go on the side for a little bit.
So you got out of the 4-week class, and then did you immediately like dive into opening a business and doing this?
So that took a little time. So I actually didn't even realize that I was going to keep doing it after that class. I was intrigued by it, and I was like, okay, like this could be really fun. And I was new to Arizona. I really wanted to meet other artists. And I was actually also separated from my ex-husband at the time too. So it was that was a huge detail that I totally left out there. It was very turbulent, but I was like just trying to figure out like, okay, what's gonna keep me busy in a positive way? Like what's gonna keep me moving forward, working on myself. And I was intrigued, and I was like just making simple little like hammered rings, and people are like, oh, I want to buy that from you, whatever. Wow. Like that's cool. And it kind of like lit a little something in me. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna take another class. Like I had the money to do it. So I talked to that instructor, and I just said, hey, like what's the next level, or what do I do? And she said, well, the next one would be like an intermediate cabochon class, like where you make the whole cabochon rings.
And that's like a cabochon, you're meaning like a stone inset ring? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. She said that my skills were decent enough. She's like, you could honestly just do studio time and ask questions as you're here. Oh, wow. And I was like, whoa, okay. Which was a little bit of a confidence booster because it was brand new to me. I had no idea. I knew that it felt good. I knew that it came naturally to me. Huh. But when she said that, I thought, oh, okay, like, why not? So
that's awesome.
I did that. And then COVID hit. Oh. So yeah. Typical COVID story.
Yes.
So they had to shut down. They were open. They tried to stay open as long as they could. But yeah, they had to shut down. And I was just kind of like, well.
Like shut down, did they shut down permanently, or did they just shut down for that time, unfortunately?
It was just that time. I'm like, okay, well, I live alone. I don't know anybody down here. I'm gonna go bonkers if I'm by myself and like can't go see anybody, whatever. Like so much unknown. And it's like, well, maybe I'll just buy silversmithing stuff. So I asked the instructor, what do I need to do to set up my own home studio? She said, go to this place called SJ Jewelry Supply, and they will get you set up with a home studio. I'm like, okay. So I went there and dropped probably a little over $1,000, including like the new stones and stuff. And silver was half the price at the time. I had this old vanity that I brought down from Minnesota, like a really old vintage, I don't know, it was some guy's mom's makeup vanity from when she was like little, when she was a little kid. So I had brought that with me. It had like big mirrors on it or whatever, and like the two little side step things, or little step bar, and then little drawers. And I wasn't really using it. It was just more for like decoration. So I hope this lady never figures this out, but I ended up turning that into my studio bench. I'm a very like do it myself type of person, especially when I was going through that separation/divorce thing. I was like, I don't want anybody's help. Like, this is all for me, whatever. So I like drilled holes in it. It was cool. It was a really cool setup. So from there on, I just kept doing it, and it stuck. And after all the divorce stuff, I was on the dating apps, and I ended up basically using the dating apps to get customers to buy my jewelry. No, and actually the guy I'm still friends with, his name is Steve. He's the best. He's so great. We dated for a little bit, but he has bought so many rings from me. He thinks of like the most challenging things for me to do. He was my first customer.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So it was, I don't know. Probably use those for different reasons and whatever, but I'm like, well, this is how I'm going to meet people and talk to people like right now. So whatever, like I'm going to tell them I'm kind of a silversmith. And anyways, so from there, I was like, okay, this is profitable. And I ended up paying off my car. And within a year of me starting the silversmithing, this is it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where it started.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Inspiring. And like I have a question on here, like who helped you, but you think about like that teacher that was just like, no, just go ahead and do it. Like the share lady. It's like, oh my gosh, just no, go ahead and do it. Like what a freaking role she played in your life. And you maybe not even realized it at the time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
She was so lovely.
On Instagram, you've kind of started doing like a Q&A, like where you ask somebody if they know, which is I think it's probably twofold, because then your client or your potential client has less questions when they come to you, or like a better idea of what you can actually do. But also it shows it's kind of cool how you've now become the teacher, so to speak, in your industry, that's kind of the goal, is be able to teach it eventually.
Yeah,
So that's cool.
For sure. I do that too, because I think a lot of people struggle with the price of jewelry or like silversmithing, and it's interesting. I bet if you talk to any silversmith or any jeweler, any artist, truly the pricing is probably one of the hardest things.
100%. Yeah.
And at least it is for me, because I enjoy silversmithing so much that I give a lot of stuff away, which is probably why I am not making profit. But like, I would much rather just do it because I enjoy it.
I totally agree. I think pricing is, for any like craft, everybody I've spoke to, even just with this podcast, has that's been one of their main issues, is figuring out how to take like something that they would do for free and then charge for it, because I'm the same way. I would give everything away if I could, and I would do it for free without any sort of payment or acknowledgement, because I love it so much. But it comes down to if you want to turn it into a business or not. And it's been a huge lesson learned trying to figure out like some sort of pricing formula that works for me. But how do you price? You don't have to get into the specifics, but how do you price with such, my materials, they like ebb and flow, but nothing like how silver or stone, I would imagine, price drops and then goes up. And then, I can't even imagine trying to budget for something like that. Is there a special way you figure that out? This podcast is brought to you by Alpha 6 Corporation, professional quality paints and tools for artists and craftsmen alike. From lettering enamels, acrylics, and specialty textile paints to brushes, tools, and accessories made right here in America, Alpha 6 Corporation's product lineup is created by artists for artists. With unmatched customer service and a dedication to their craft, I am so proud to partner with Alpha 6 Corporation. In my studio, I use their carbon fiber maul stick, artist series brushes, and durable enamel paints. Whether you're a beginning artist or a seasoned professional, you can find inspiration with their do-it-yourself painting kits and monthly subscription boxes. Use the affiliate link in the description of this podcast to create with the same tools and paint that I use daily, and ultimately support a Detroit-based company that fosters creativity with makers from all over the world.
Being totally honest, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't follow. I get like the daily market rates of like gold, silver, and platinum. Okay. Basically, what I'll do is figure out how much I think this piece of silver is that I'm using for whatever it is.
Okay.
I look at like the stone costs, the shipping costs it takes to get to Alaska. So the
Yeah.
materials, I'll kind of calculate that out, but it's still truly kind of an eyeball estimate of like
Yeah.
what it is. And I know it's not a sustainable thing for me, but I think for right now, it's like that's just all I can do. I kind of look at other market prices for things. Like every once in a while, I'll peek on other silversmiths jewelry and kind of look at their skill level and just try to figure out like where I'm at with that. Like, oh, okay, like, I maybe could charge a little more for this or a little less. And
Yeah. I mean, that's what market research is all about. I mean, they do that for houses, it's no different.
Yeah, that's so true. That part has been tough for me too, because my confidence or like that whole imposter syndrome, I'm like, oh, I've only been doing this for 5 years. Like I
Yes.
maybe shouldn't be charging as much. I'm sure you understand all that too.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yeah, I just recently got off social media for like a month because I just kind of felt like, truthfully, I felt the Holy Spirit saying, like, you have got to make a change in your mind on your own viewing of your own work because I was falling in love again with what I was making, but I wasn't selling it. And so I would go on to social media and see like all these people selling their work or talking about a sale, and it's just like, okay, I'm doing what I feel I'm called to do, but I'm not selling the work. So where is the miscommunication here? And it really was just once I got back on and I had spent that 30-day, it's like, wow, my whole trust was in social media. Like I had completely nixed the idea of just trusting God for the client. I was hoping that what I was posting on social media would bring the client to me. And it was just like a very big realization on how much I was struggling with comparison. And so getting off social media for that short time, it was like very life-giving to me. And I realized how important it was to just set really big boundaries around that and not trust it as much as I was. Because as a new mom, it's like I don't get to go out and do things like I was hoping. And I can resonate with you when you were like in a new place and you're like, you don't know anybody. Like sometimes I feel, here stuck in the studio and it's like, shoot, what is everybody else doing? Where is everybody else? Where are they? And so I just I had massive imposter syndrome and comparison issues for the last couple months. And so I totally resonate with what you're saying. And I'm sorry that we're in the same boat sometimes.
It's okay. And I think it's, at the same time, it's kind of a blessing too, because without that, I don't push myself to do like what you did. Turn the business into an LLC in California when I moved there from Arizona. And I think that was in 2022.
Yeah, I did want to talk to you about that in pertaining to the LLC, but also in the actual name of your business.
Okay. Why am I just using my last name? Like that's so cliche or whatever. But then I was like, well, wait a second. So my grandparents on my dad's side, obviously, they're from Mexico and they're absolutely legendary. Both of my grandparents, both sides are just crazy cool. So I'm trying to figure out like the best way to incorporate both sides. But it's like, okay, well, my last name is Velasco. People could like connect that right away, like, oh, Velasco Silversmithing. It's not like a super common last name. So that kind of worked out. But I just thought my dad is the baby of 13. I just thought like, what a cool way to, I don't know, keep the family, family grit, I guess you could say, moving on. Because in college, I actually sat my grandparents down and interviewed them.
It's so special.
Oh, it was so cool. And they actually both passed away in the last 2 years. My grandma just passed away a couple of months ago. A lot of my aunts and uncles didn't realize that I had done that. So now they got to like go back and see or listen to that video. And it's so cool. The work that it took for them to get to the United States and start and build this legendary family. Like my family is badass. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's so cool.
It's special. My friends in high school always, I swear they came over to hang out with my family instead of me. I don't know. It was always like, oh, let's go to Velasco's for 4th of July. Because everybody wanted to hang out, like when all my dad's brothers and their wives were over, like they're just such good people. So
Wow.
and I mean this in the most humble way, but like it's a legendary thing for me. It's like,
Yeah.
this family is probably one of the most ideal families that you could grow up in.
Yeah.
Like that is something that God has blessed me with. Not a lot of people have that. So why would I not incorporate that into something?
And you had a post on your Instagram that said something, you had made a ring for your dad, and the caption underneath there was like, it was basically what you said, like, this is a legendary man, and I just wanted to honor him and his legacy. And were they supportive of you, like, opening your business? Like, how did they take it when you decided to become, like, a creative entrepreneur, essentially?
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
They've been supportive of pretty much everything. Like, my family is not perfect by any means. Every family's got their thing. But my parents are probably the best parents I could have ever asked for in terms of so many things. So my mom was a nurse for like 35 years. She just retired when they moved up to Alaska.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because
so your family lives in Alaska as well?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. Cool.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't think I would be here if they weren't here.
Yeah, well, I thought initially I was like, why? I wonder why I thought you just were drawn to like the scenery, the outdoors aspect of it, which of course I'm sure was part of it, but still.
Oh, we're not from here. We're definitely not.
Okay.
It's crazy though, because my grandpa essentially had an offer to come up to Alaska and build a homestead, like, because at the time they needed people to live here, either that or Minnesota. And he chose Minnesota, and somehow we all ended up here anyways. Not all of us. It's just my immediate family.
Yeah, full circle for sure.
My sister is a pediatric hospitalist, and my dad, I have asked him so many times. I know he's going to listen to this, and he's just going to laugh, but I don't know what he does. It's something he works, something really smart with computers. He works for Wells Fargo, and like.
Okay. And so what do you do full time then? Are you also in like the medical field or?
Yeah, I applied around everywhere. It's like, okay, I have payroll experience, I have onboarding experience, I have admin experience. Then I ended up getting a job at the hospital, at Providence Hospital up here.
Okay.
So I work as the admin for the whole pediatric intensive care unit.
Don't mean to offend you. I don't want to offend you with this, but I think you might be the first person, if I can think of, that has a full-time job and you're also a creative entrepreneur on the side. Of course, that I've interviewed for this podcast. Does that cater sometimes to your imposter syndrome? Like the fact that you aren't full-time? It does. And
absolutely.
So how do you combat that? Like, what do you tell yourself, or how do you get out of that mindset of like, well, I'm not a real artist, like what people say. I'm not a real artist, but I have to do this full-time gig on the side. But like, I'm totally open to that. Like, if you want to do that or have to do that to make it work on the other end so that you can be creative in the evenings, like, more power to you as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. It's hard, but it's what I know.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I know. I've always worked full-time. I've been working since I was 16. It bothers me sometimes, but I think for the most part, I know it's what I need to do right now. Because
like a season type thing.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I'm still struggling trying to figure out how to make my business so profitable that I can live off of it.
Yes.
But it's also part of my hard work. If I don't feel like I'm contributing to society with my silversmithing, I don't feel fulfilled. So And this job at the hospital specifically, like I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor, but I support them very heavily. I would say more emotionally than anything.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
they'll come in
sure.
the
I'm sure.
office and, something happened on the floor and the charge nurse will come in and, just chat with me for a couple minutes. And I'm very calm, and that's not a super common thing in their area. So that is very fulfilling. And I need that. I need to feel like I'm helping. I don't know if it's emotionally or what, but that part of me is like, okay, and they need help. Like Alaska needs healthcare workers like no other. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Do you feel like your jewelry also fulfills that need of helping others, or is it a different type of fulfillment?
I think it's different. I think because it's a different, it depends on the customer, really.
Yeah.
I think. But, some people will, like my hummingbird rings. I've had people say hummingbirds are a very spiritual thing for them. And that to me, I'm like, ooh, yep, that fulfills it. But then there's also some people who just want like the fanciest, biggest thing. And like, if that's their thing, that's so cool. I'm not a materialistic person.
Yeah.
So I don't resonate with that as much. I just like to make the pretty things. Like sometimes I'll make something and I'll wear it for a while and then I'm like, yeah, I'm sick of it, and I'll sell it. But like, I don't know. I think the jewelry is truly more of just like a creative
outlet, kind of.
outlet. Yeah.
That's funny. Most of or not funny, but I guess it's intriguing to me. Every craftsman I've ever talked to is a non-materialistic person. Like they would prefer to make the good and get rid of it as soon as possible rather than like hoard the good, which I guess I'm kind of like that as well, although I do love like a good antique or something like that. But that's interesting. It's just so I love doing this because I see like a very through thread with a lot of the same traits through every person I've spoke to for this podcast. But calm was an interesting word. Do you think that calm helps you in your jewelry making? Or does jewelry making make you calm?
I think I'm naturally a very chill person. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I probably should be really startled by this, or I'm like, why am I not fazed by this? But I grew up in a calm home.
That's special. That's really good.
Oh, it is so special. It's still so calm at my parents' house. And my sister has 3 kids, so that's a little different, but like they're calm people. They're just
and that makes a huge difference, especially when you have children. I'm learning from experience.
Something that's been a part of me my entire life. Truly, I think I've just been a very grounded person on the outside. I have anxiety inside. Like my mind is always, especially trying to balance everything I'm trying to balance right now too. But like, I think it's almost an overcompensation for what is in my head a lot of times because it's very like busy, busy, busy. And I don't like to stress people out. Like to, so I just, which isn't good to bottle it up, but that's why I get therapy. It helps out.
It does.
Yeah. And Jesus.
Yeah. Amen, girlfriend.
So
true.
Yeah.
So true.
But I think it's just like, I enjoy being that calm,
like
place.
helper.
Yeah. Like people, I have this new friend up here, and he has a little lapidary thing, and so he's been teaching me how to do like cut my own stones, which is so cool.
Oh, that is very cool.
He like came in, and I had like my music on. It's in a shed, like it looks like I'm in a dungeon of some kind, and it's dark and whatever. And he's like, oh, the vibes in here are so good. He's like, oh, your music is so chill. And it's like, I feel very like at peace or something like that. And I'm like, oh, good. Like,
Yeah.
that's how I like it. That's how I need my space. I don't want anybody to disturb my chaos. So if you're
Yeah.
about to get out.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I'm just naturally a pretty chill person.
I would imagine at times you feel like you have two full-time jobs. Because when
Yes.
I was doing like commission work and a full-time gig, that was very stressful, full-time job, day job, I was slammed sometimes, especially during the holidays. Is
Mhm.
there like, how do you handle that? Is like you said, Jesus and therapy, is that kind of just your answer?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't had a therapist for, oh gosh, it's been a while. I think my faith is like the number one thing. That is something that going through the divorce and even just before that, I
Hmm.
grew I grew up Catholic and
Okay.
then it was confirmed and all of that, but I can't remember when it was, but we kind of stopped going to Catholic church and started leaning more towards like non-denominational. And then from there, like my ex-husband was also Christian and we would try different churches and stuff. So, but like through all of that, a lot of times you go, but you don't feel it or whatever, you're going just to go.
Yeah,
But
it's the
when I
act of it more
started,
so than anything.
absolutely,
Yeah.
like I was in a very, very dark place, like for the divorce, which was officially in 2020, early 2020. That was like my darkest moment. Like it was bad.
Like, were you just like questioning your faith or like, can you maybe
Yeah.
dive into that a little bit? Like, no, you don't have to be very personal, but like, what do you mean by dark, dark?
Like I wasn't happy. Now that I look back at that time, I think a lot of it was because of myself, because I wasn't doing things that were fulfilling to me. I met my ex-husband when I was 16 at my
Mm.
first job. We were together for 12 years. And so immediately from that, he was fantastic. He was a great person and we had so much fun and he still is a good person, but we just
Kind of
somewhere along the lines, yeah,
hmm.
grew apart. And I think I had lost myself so bad along that route that I just was depressed. I was drinking. I was like, just, it was not good. I remember like praying about it because I didn't know what to do. It was like, I'm so depressed. Like, I felt like this sick pit in my stomach and I was making decisions that were not good and that
Hmm.
wasn't like me. I was very, I don't know. He got baptized after we split, and I went to his baptism to
Wow.
support him. And yeah, it was a rough time, but I remember I went and I took my parents with, and it was very emotional. He did a whole testimonial in front of the whole church. Like it was wild. It was beautiful. And I remember there was one Bible verse. It was Matthew 11:28 through 30. And it was basically saying, like, Jesus is going to give me rest. And at that point in time, I was like, where can I find this rest? What do I
Yes.
need to do? Where's this peace? I grew up in a peaceful home. My parents are angels. My
Yeah.
sister loves me to pieces. My brother-in-law is amazing. Like, I have wonderful friends. Reading that Bible verse, it was up on the screen. This was at a church in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I wrote it
And
down because you have it in your Instagram bio. So let me read it. Let me read it really quick. So it's Matthew 11:28 through 30. It says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest in your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Yeah.
bingo.
Yes. It gives me
From that,
chills just thinking it. I just have chills right now.
yep, I do too. I do too. I have it tattooed on my leg now too. I told
Oh,
myself,
wow.
don't be that girl. Don't be that
Yes.
girl. I literally, I can't even tell you how many times that Bible verse has showed up in my life. It's insane. On billboards, random sermons, because I've moved a lot, and this Bible verse has
Come.
been everywhere. that was like I was going to say a shot straight to the heart, but like a good one, you know, it's like, how can I not see this as this is where my peace is. And so ever since then, I've been diving into it, and, you know, it ebbs and flows. And I think, as a Christian, I think that's part of Christianity, is questioning it too. Sometimes
100%.
Like, what do you know, we still go through hard times. We still do dumb things. We still sin, make mistakes, all of that. But like, that is essentially where I found my peace all the time. It never fails. I was away from my family physically for 5 years by myself, trying to find that peace in all these different things that were away from what I was used to.
Yes.
And the only place I ever found it was God. That was the only place. Didn't matter where I was. If I was laying in my bed, if I was crying, if I was like sitting at the beach watching my dog run and play on the dog beach, which she loved. It didn't matter where it was. It was like, if it was the Bible app on my phone, anything, that was where I felt peace. And I don't know. It's crazy. It blows my mind when people don't, but I understand, because you have to feel it. You have to have, you know.
Yeah, it has to come from your own journey. It's hard to like force, you can't force it on somebody. It's got to come from their own inside, you know, their own journeys, their own stories have to all culminate to that moment where they're like, okay, I'm going to try this, you know?
Yep.
And that's why I feel like that's kind of why, you know, a lot of the conversations I was having with my colleagues in the art industry being very much like, and you probably feel this way too, very much like male dominated. It's kind of shocked me where once I got off social media and started talking to these guys, like a lot of them were Christians and a lot of them believed in God, but they didn't really openly talk about it, because in our like automotive scene industry, it's just not really something that you talk about, or even like as simple as saying like, oh, you know, glory be to God or whatever, like for the praise that you got on some piece you just did. And so I was like, there's got to be more to this. Like, these people are relying, these guys, these like really awesome big manly men are like relying on God, but they're not talking about it enough. And I thought more it was the reason that like they just didn't have a platform to do it on. And so that's why I was like, we've got to get like faith and Christianity just kind of intertwined in craftsmanship in some way. It doesn't have to be like the end all be all to the conversation, but it's just such a beautiful thing to hear how like your faith is intertwined in your story and how much it plays a part in your piece while you're working and what you're doing for a living now. It's just, it's a through thread, like I keep saying with other things. It's just really cool to hear people's faith journeys. And that's one of the reasons that I've started following you, is because you have a cross and an American flag in your bio on Instagram. And I was like, okay, I can get with this. Like I have almost the same thing on mine. So
yeah.
It's funny how it goes together. You know, I know like patriotism and all of that can get kind of dicey these days talking about it, but I love my country and I love Jesus, and so it was cool to see you have that as well. And I feel like we're probably a similar age group, so it was just refreshing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's pretty recent that I started showing that a little bit more. I grew up in a very conservative area. Then I had my mom who worked in Minneapolis. She had this totally different perspective and respect for, I guess, the more liberal side of things. So I grew up very like moderate.
Yeah.
And could see both ways. And, you know, in school, it was College of Liberal Arts. It was, now looking back at it, some of the stuff that I read, I'm like, whoa, okay, like that is extremely one-sided. Like, oh my goodness. But after college, I did start to kind of be a little bit more liberal and was doing whatever I wanted to do a little bit, like not following that conservative mindset as much. And then I think I got kind of lost in that and eventually was like, okay, nope, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't think, these things are destroying my life. Okay. And then I realized, like, this is where I truly am at heart. I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut.
Same.
Like,
Same.
before I maybe would be like, oh, don't say that. I could offend somebody or whatever. But now I'm like, no, if that's mean, if it's gross, if it's wrong, don't do that. I'm not perfect by any means.
I was also kind of like you, where I kept my mouth shut. I mean, most people knew, just from my background, my family background being like having a lot of military influence and stuff, people just assumed. And then, of course, some of my artwork had, I don't know, leaned towards like having American flags and pinup girls and all the historic reference. But when you started talking about like your faith and your, I don't know, for lack of better words, patriotism in your business, did you find that to be a positive thing or a negative thing?
Honestly, I think it's been more positive. I noticed, I pay attention to this, but if I post something like a Bible verse or something patriotic, I will probably lose a couple followers.
Same.
And that is fine with me. I have realized, I'm like, okay, at first I was like trying to get these followers. And so every single person I could get, I was like, please just stay. Like, love my things and buy my jewelry. Please, for the love of God.
Yes.
But then after I started to be more vocal about it, I was like, why am I hiding this? Why would I
felt the same way.
Something that's not who I am. Like, I love people. I every single person, doesn't matter. I'm always like, oh, there's good in you. Like, I know I know it's in there. I'm a very graceful person too. But I think I was trying to just attract all these different types of things, and that was sort of spreading me thin. And so I would like pray about it. I'm like, what do I need to do? And it's like, you know what?
Dude, I was exactly the same way. Gosh, you're speaking my language right now so much.
I'm so frustrating.
Yes.
But the pastor that I had in Arizona, his name is Travis Hearn. He's fantastic. He was so bold and like shameless. He's extremely shameless. And the first time I sat in that church, I thought like,
oh, really? Wow. Okay.
This is why people don't like Christians. But then the more I went, I'm like, no, this is true.
In general, we've gotten very gray, and like Christianity in general has become just this like gray blob of just like, love everybody, do what you want, and you're forgiven for whatever. And it's like, again, coming from an imperfect human, just like you said for yourself, it's like, no, there are rules, and like, just like any religion, like there's certain things that there's check marks that you gotta kind of at least try and follow, do your best to try and follow anyway. And of course there's a lot of forgiveness and grace, which is the blessing of our choice of religion. But it's like, geez, it's not just this big gray, like do whatever you want situation. And I think social media has played a huge role in that. Is just social media has made everything gray. It's like, there's still good and bad,
And I think his boldness was, it was more entertainment, I think, for me at the time.
Yes.
That boldness. And the more I went to him, the more I was like, I felt empowered to embrace that part of myself. So that's when I put the cross and the American flag on my profile. I'm like,
this is who I am. Yeah.
This is who it is. This is my Bible verse. It's staying on there.
Yes.
And since I've done that, I have had conversations with people that I would never have even thought were Christian.
Yes.
Or even had like remotely the same beliefs. And I've had some friends from San Diego that have said like, oh, I'm becoming more and more conservative or whatever. And it seemed like a concern, and like, let's talk about it.
I've had conversations with people after kind of integrating that more into my business that don't agree with me. And they've been wonderful conversations where I've actually gotten a lot from their insight on things as well. And so it's really, it's just, I hope that people understand. It's funny because for me, the reason I did it is similar to your pastor being bold. Listening to Andy Frisella is what made me, but like, I'm doing this. I love my craft, I love my country, and I love God. And so I want people to know that. And I'm just going to start talking about it openly. And I really don't care if people feel the same way or not. But if they don't feel the same way, please, let's have a conversation. I would love to talk with you. That's how I grew up. Like, I remember in America where we were able to have conversations where we disagreed respectfully and then, like, we could still paint together.
Yeah.
I remember that. Like, even in college, I remember that.
Yeah.
Thank you for shedding light on your decision to do that. Change gears here really quick because I want to get into the craftsmanship concept with you because I first I want to ask you, to you, what defines good craftsmanship?
Oh man, the word craftsmanship is an interesting one to me. I've tried so many different mediums, right? Like
Yes.
painting, drawing, sculpture, woodworking, took welding in college, like all the above. And I think there can be solid craftsmanship in so many different things. For me, though, I think craftsmanship is where it's like truly the artist's idea, the artist's execution, and just like a good quality crafted piece.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of, I mean, you can get inspired by a million people all over the internet these days, but I think it's truly, someone truly becomes a crafter when they've mastered their skill and they've found their style.
Yes. Yes.
Because so many different people can do, like, I think of silversmithing this way. We all have access to the exact same things. Any cast that I have access to, every single silversmith can get it. Any materials, stones, the wax that I carve and send to get casted, people can do that too. Like,
so true.
Everybody can do it. But until you truly dive into it and put yourself into your work, you don't really have a style. And I think as soon as you hit that point where you have that and it's recognized, like people can tell, like, oh, that's yours. That's when I think it's true connection. I don't feel like I have a style, honestly.
Really? That was going to be my next question.
Yes. I truly, I mean, maybe if you were to put my stuff next to other silversmiths, but I think because I have that mentality that we all have access to the same things, and a lot of us do like similar, the roping and stuff like that, but
the techniques are the same. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I'm like, well, I'm going to make my own rope because I don't want to just buy it or whatever. But I do that sometimes too. I'm like, okay, because I don't know, I could go down a rabbit hole about that. But anyways,
no, please do.
Well, I didn't really realize that I had a style until I came to Alaska, truly, because Arizona is so saturated with silversmiths that it's just kind of another common thing to do there, which is great. I mean, there's a lot of fantastic silversmiths down there, but when I moved up here, my style is so different from what everybody makes up here. It's all very, it's pretty dainty, and my stuff is just like kind of like a punch in the face. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've had numerous people tell me that they've never seen work like mine, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And I started doing markets up here more. That allowed me to be face to face with people, which was fantastic.
Everybody has the same tools. Never thought of that. That's so true. Anybody could create anything with the same tools I have on my easel. So that's an interesting concept. But I think from my perspective, I do believe you have a very strong style. And I think style and brand are kind of in the same line. And like I can tell instantly, I follow a lot of jewelers on Instagram, but I can tell instantly when it's something that you post. Like I don't even have to look at the handle on Instagram. And I think that's a really high compliment for any kind of creators, because that is the ultimate goal, is to find that style that like well known, like, okay, this is a Velasco piece,
Wow. That's great to hear. That's got to be my imposter syndrome too, because
Yes, it is. Today's podcast is brought to you by Dupe the Room. A lot of you listen to this podcast in your car, and with Dupe the Room's essential oil diffusers for cars, you can transform your commute into a 5-star hotel experience with their luxury scents and sleek diffusers that clip seamlessly onto your car's existing air vents. Dupe the Room fragrance packs come with 3 different scents, 2 metal diffusers, and a reusable unscented oil stick pack that you can customize and refill when ready. Dip the stick into any of their hotel-inspired fragrances, then place the stick into the diffuser, customize your scent strength, and hit the road. My husband and I share our daily driver, and with a blend of leather, lemon, and sandalwood, our favorite scent is number 1. It has a great balance of masculine and feminine aromas. Ditch those bulky vent clips and tree-shaped air fresheners and invest into an affordable and reusable alternative that ensures a great smelling ride for up to 6 months at a time. Head to dupetheroom.com/Kate Cook for 10% off your entire order.
I started an LLC in California, and ever since then, I have not been able to catch up with the business or the finances. And then I started paying for Instagram ads, which was
That's
great.
How I found you.
That. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
so that worked.
That paid off. So the thousands of dollars I put into that paid off. Sweet.
Oh man, we should talk about that. I don't know if it would interest people to talk about that because I've never done that, and it's always intrigued me because they're very pointed now. Like I'm like, okay, yeah, follow like every time, you know. Yep. But that's interesting. You paid $1,000 for your first set of Instagram ads. Is that what you just said?
Well, in the last 5 years, probably over $3,000, I would say.
Yeah.
But I think of that too as advertisement. I wasn't doing markets.
Yes.
It was all word of mouth. I wasn't and have never been doing it full time.
Yeah. Did you feel like it was a good move to do something like that?
I think it is. I actually just took a course on it because I'm so frustrated with Instagram right now, and I know that it's a good tool. I just don't know how to use it properly. I think the issue that I've had with it is I have paid all this money to get my work out there, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of my following is just, what do they call it, like organic?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
But a big chunk of it is organic because of the ads I've paid for that have gotten me followers. But then once you get to that point, you have to keep all of them entertained all the time, or they fall out of your algorithm and it's just a number. And I could be so far off with that, but that's where my head is at with it, because
that's exactly what I've found as well. And I only have 6,000, so I totally feel you on that.
It's crazy. It's like, mm-hmm. Okay, so I have paid, like, trying to make sense of this. Like, I've paid you thousands of dollars.
Yes.
To get these people to come to my website, whatever it is, to follow me, to enjoy my work, whatever.
Right.
But then to have that like almost taken away, it's like, give me my money back, you know?
Seriously, it's like the only company on the planet that can do that. And then like if they decide that you've violated some magical rule, it's like they're just going to take everything from you. Like nobody on the planet, company-wise, does that except for social media. I will never understand. And you are not alone in your understanding of Instagram. And, you know, when I took that month off, I went from like 15,000 views a day, and now I'm down to like 2. And I have to build it back up because it shows you like how many people have come to your profile or seen your profile in the day. And just because I wasn't, like you said, entertaining them on a daily basis, that whole thing drops off and nobody sees any of my stuff now. And it's like, geez, like, it's just a monster. Like, you have to continually feed it. And I can't do that. I've just learned my lesson the hard way. I just can't.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
And
do you feel like your course helped that you took? Do you feel like it educated you? That's good.
I do, but at the same time, I also feel like I knew a lot of it already, just from my own research and my own. And also when I moved up to Alaska, one of my good friends, Jake, he's a chiropractor, and he got me into this business networking group.
Oh, that's great.
Well, like, you know, I didn't have a job at the time, so I was just silversmithing, and so I would go and like network and all this stuff. And the president of it and I sat down because he does like social media. He will essentially take a look at your profile and like he can do your social media stuff for you.
Yes.
Like
Okay. He's like a
one of those.
professional marketer kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I met with him and he had like done this whole assessment on my Instagram, like pulled all the numbers and was looking at the content and stuff. And I remember he was like, your reels are incredible. Like your content is like amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It just needs to be more consistent.
It is so
All I
time
want to do is make my jewelry. I don't want to be filming everything. I don't want to be taking pictures every 5 seconds. I don't like putting my face on there. I don't know why. I just don't. I don't. But when I do, it blows up. It's like put my face on there and then people are liking it and then it goes to like 1,000 people versus the maybe 200 that I get when it's my jewelry I'm trying to sell. I'm trying to sell my jewelry, not my face. Like what's going on here?
I mean, it's good to know that you felt that the advertisement aspect of it was profitable in some sense of the term. Like at least you have you feel like that was a positive thing.
It's an interesting balance. So the markets up here in Alaska are great. Like people love handmade stuff.
Oh, I love that.
Especially like native stuff. I heard about all these markets like, oh, like I almost sold out, almost blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, ooh, that's my ticket.
Yeah.
And I started doing these markets and every single market, I swear, people are like, this isn't normal. This is not normal. Nobody's buying anything. It's so slow. And this is just since May, when I moved into Alaska in May. And I'm like, well, geez, like, where's my breakthrough? Like, how am I going to, I don't know. So, but I just kept showing up.
Yeah, just keep going. And I think I'm praying. I've heard similar things here about for the fine art market. And I think a lot of it is people are just really uncertain about, especially like prior to certain things happening. I think they were very uncertain about the way of the world. And I think they still are. Like, I think the whole like kind of, not that I believe that what we do is unnecessary, but it is not a needed thing to live on a daily basis. And I think once people are able to live on a daily basis a little bit more affordably, hopefully in the future, like just afford groceries and gas a little easier, then people will still start feeling a little bit more lenient with where they spend their personal like fun money. But you are not the only one. I have heard that from so many different creators in the last year, in a couple months. Yeah.
Thank God.
And it's like, it's one of those things where you don't want to blame it. And I've always been this way. Like if I've had a bad show, the first thing I do is I check like, okay, what could I have done better? Because maybe the show wasn't as coordinated. I can't blame them. Maybe the weather was super bad. You can't blame the weather. Like what could I have done better? But in the last couple months, like, holy smokes, it has been very, very, very hard. And there are, I think, external factors that have played heavily into people's decision to spend money. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Absolutely. And I mean, I did the same thing where it was like, geez, and I know I'm not a bad silversmith. I know work is pretty good, but it had me second guessing. I'm like, do I just sell junk? Do I like, what is going on here? Like people don't like work. Do I need to change it? Do I need to do more of what everybody else is doing? And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm also very stubborn.
Same.
I'm like very, I don't know. This is within the last couple of years. I think I'm just like fed up with a lot of stuff. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to change my work. So then I thought like, okay, maybe people just want like simple things. So then I started making simple things, bringing those to the markets. And no, then that day I would sell a bolo tie that's huge, which hasn't sold for whatever. I'm like, addicted. So it kind of made me step back a little bit and be like, okay, well, where is my audience? Like who's buying my jewelry? Like where does this need to be? Because if I try to change my style, if I try to do something that's not me, then that's not for me anymore. It's for somebody else. But at the same time, it's like, I'm trying to turn into a business. So it's a balance that I'm trying to figure out, like how much of this can I just truly make and have people fall in love with, or do I need to cater a little bit more to what people want, which I think is what I need to do right now.
Yes.
Because the economy is struggling. But
Yes.
Andy Frisell mindset, I'm like, I'm not giving up on it.
Yeah.
Already know how much you listen to him, but I listen to his podcast and stuff all the time.
Yes,
but,
like probably weekly or more.
Oh, yes. Oh, I love him. I was reading the book on mental toughness.
Yeah.
I was reading that in the bathtub last night, and I'm like, yeah, this is
I know it like makes you want to get up and like do like punch something. I don't know.
I want to move to Missouri and work with him.
Oh, girl, yeah, seriously. I was like, could they use an artist in some realm?
Silversmith. Actually, he's the reason why I made those cigar pins. I saw in his story one time. I'm like, ooh. I'm like, Andy makes cigar pins. Maybe I'll make one of those. And he posted one like last night or something. And I thought about like reaching out, like, ooh, can I make you one? But I'm like, whatever.
You never know. Like I tagged him in that one thing, and he liked my post. No, he liked my post, and I was like, yes. But no, it's so true though. Like, and he's probably the number one like person that's like, don't let external factors determine your greatness. And that really changed my mindset, because there were shows where I'd go and like didn't want to point the finger at myself. And then I can totally feel you with the whole audience thing where you're like trying to make art that people want to buy. Like right now I'm in a course that one I got gifted to me, and she's saying like go to Target or Hobby Lobby or something and look at the kind of artwork that the buyers for those big box stores are selling. And I'm trying to apply that to something that you do in your industry. If you went to Target or some like mass wholesale jeweler, it's a bunch of like letter jewelry and like super small dainty things. And it's just like what you do is not the trend, just like what I do currently is not the trend. They're not abstract landscapes. It's just not, that's just not. And I even tried to do one, and I'm like, oh, this is not for me.
Yes.
I can't do this. I can't not be who God has made me to be. And these are the images that God has given me, and I'm going to make them out of duty to him and not anyone else. And I think that's what really struck me with the whole month off of Instagram. Is just like God will provide for you. It's not the algorithm or the trendy thing. It's like, if this is what God has given you to do, like do it, and then he will provide. Whether it's like now or 10 years in the future, you never know. You know, it's just kind of like Noah building the ark in a desolate landscape with no rain. I mean, he never had seen rain before, and he was building this ark, and it's like God told him to do it. He doesn't have any customers. Like, people thought he was crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And then the rain came, and everyone's like, oh crap.
Yeah. Now
so,
I that.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of like waiting for the rain, I guess. I don't know.
I am too. I honestly, I think it's a mixture of that mentality that I've built through listening to Andy almost religiously. I just always have this thing in the back of my mind. I don't remember what episode it was, but he talks about like, if you were to just give up now, everybody that's behind you is going to catch up type of thing. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, this sucks. I could probably just pay off my debt. I could probably just help pay that off with my personal job and just be done and have this relief. But then I got that in the back of my mind where I'm like, okay, all my competitors, even if they started a year after me, a couple months after me, whatever, if I stop now, they're going to pass me. And then I'm going to look at them while they're successful when this storm passes. And I think a mixture between that and just knowing that it will pay off at some point. Like there's no way I'm doing all of this work for nothing.
Yeah. And you can't help but think that looking at your story, it's already paid off in the sense of maybe not financially, but it's paid off in so many other realms. And that's where I have to remember for myself too. It's like, there's so many things I've gotten out of this. So many things, so many good things. And I've become a better person because of it all around. Yeah.
I think I have too. And I've learned a lot about myself. I think I've gotten the confidence to be able to say to people like, you know, the price point for something that I'm making, it's going to be 10, 20 times higher than something someone can mass make. There's this, I can buy that, whatever that Temu or whatever
Oh
that
God, yes.
site is. Whatever, I could find this on Etsy for a third, fourth of the price. I'm like, what then? Like, don't have to tell me, just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't want the quality, if you want something that's mass made by someone you don't know that is just doing it for whatever, just to make money, to mass produce, fine. Like, then I don't want people to have my jewelry that don't want it.
Yes.
And I think that's a blessing and a curse for myself, because like, if I had more of an entrepreneurial like mindset, I think I would be like, I want everybody needs my jewelry, blah, blah, blah. But like, even at markets, people will like try stuff on, and I think they think that I get offended if they like put it back, or if they're like, oh no, like that one. And I tell people all the time, I say, like, try it on, are you going to wear it? Are you going to love it? Because the amount of energy and time that I put into my work, I want someone to appreciate that and to enjoy it. And even if it's just because they love being flashy, or, some of the stones look like they have scenery in them, or some people will see certain things in things that I don't even see, and they love it. And I want that kind of connection. I don't need someone, I don't want people to just buy my stuff just to have it. If it's going to sit there and you're not going to use it, then don't bother.
That's such an artist mindset. I love that. I'm just finishing up reading a Georgia O'Keeffe biography, and I didn't know this about her, but every piece of artwork, almost every single piece of artwork that she ever sold and or gave to somebody, when that person died, she asked for it back. Because she's like, I don't want it to just be sitting in a closet somewhere. Like, I loved that piece and I want it back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is legit. Like, I don't, that's crazy. I don't know if I could do that or not.
That I'm thinking, geez, all this inventory.
Yes.
Tracking everybody down. Like, hey, when you die.
She's so challenging. But she had like a team of people when she was older that helped her with that. But I just thought that was so funny to me. She's just like this little cranky old woman asking for all her artwork back. I guess in her favor, it did help, because after she died, then there was a beautiful collection of work that, she willed out to like different museums and stuff, which was really cool. But wrapping this up, I do want to talk to you about one more question, or two more questions, actually. I want to talk to you about the piece you're most proud of and why. And then I want to talk to you about your biggest piece of advice for somebody wanting to get into the realm of creative entrepreneurship.
Piece I'm most proud of. Ooh. There's been quite a few. I actually, you follow Iron, right?
Yeah.
So they had reached out to me when he was first starting, and I'm like, whoa, okay, this guy is very well known. And the first one I went to was awesome. Like, it was great. It was like my first show that I really had truly done.
Yeah. And can you explain that to like what other people listening to this, what that actually is?
Yeah, like what the iron.
What iron is, yeah.
Iron is, yeah. So it's changed quite a bit since I was involved. Essentially what he does with this online platform is he gives multiple high fashion designer artists like a chance to have a platform to show their work. Because he has a podcast. There's a podcast I listened to on the way driving to California. That's how much I had no idea who these people were. I was like, I don't know who this is. I'm like doing my research. Essentially what he was building is this direct to consumer platform for people.
So cool. Yeah.
In the high fashion industry. He finds these ranches, and they were in California. I ended up going out there, and I was only Silversmith, but it was all Western stuff. And then they had like an embroidery artist, and then like a hat company. And I think there was only like 5 vendors, but the networking was crazy. And so then he asked for all of our feedback, and he was like, hey, like, what did you think compared to other markets? How did you do? Blah, blah, blah. He didn't charge for the first one. And so I was like, gosh, this really truly is part of an experiment. And I love building stuff like that. Like, I
for sure.
go down after I like realized what it was and what he was doing and stuff. I'm like, this is great. And then the second one, it was a different ranch, and this one was in Santa Paula. But this time, the clothing designer for Yellowstone was there. And yeah, like honestly don't even know everything that was right in front of my face because I was removed. I had never even watched Yellowstone before in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody knew that.
Yeah,
it still happened. But anyways, that second show was an investment for me because I lived in Arizona. I had to pay for all the gas, and then we had to pay a fee for that one. And then I had to pay for the Airbnb. They were having like a little dinner after party thing, and here I thought it was just going to be for like Stefan and Janetta, and like she's the designer. Somehow ended up at the dinner table with him and Janetta, and then there's only like 10 of us sitting at this dinner table, and I'm sitting here listening to their conversations about like things that I never ever would even imagine being at a table for. So I was like praying in my head. I'm like, God, why am I at this table right now? Like what is going on?
It's like, hugely metaphorical.
Yes. Like, yes, it is very, very. It's like, what's my business here? And I just thought like, you know what? I'm just going to let it be what it is. I'm honored to be sitting at this table. It was so cool listening to these people have this conversation about high fashion things and like talking about like Hollywood type of stuff. I just got to hear what goes on when they're planning these things. Wow. And actually, all of this to say that Jason Momoa was supposed to be there. So I made this big ring, and his like whole biker gang or whatever, they were supposed to be there. They said they were going to come or something. They didn't come, but I had like all this elaborate work, which I still have a lot of those pieces because they're very expensive. Like I spent a lot of money investing, trying to make huge stuff for that show, thinking it was going to just be like, you know, I probably had like 40 pieces. But the second one, then I was like, okay, I'm going to make everything I possibly can so people have options and whatever. And I did do okay, like it, but there wasn't as much of a turnout as we thought there was going to be. But that is pretty amazing. Really, yeah, it was really cool. I think a lot of the pieces that I make, there's a lot of really sentimental pieces. Mm-hmm. Well, the one on Danny, I would say that's probably right now, that's probably one of the coolest and farthest my jewelry has ever gone, is that skull ring that I made for Danny. He obviously isn't from LA, but that's like where all of the stuff for The Voice is.
And he was a finalist on The Voice, right? Just so people understand. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So he was top 5.
And did he reach out to you to have work done, or?
Oh, so this is a shoot my shot type of thing. So my parents watch The Voice like all the time. And it's cute. They like get all, or my mom mostly, she just loves it. The one time I like sat down, this was like pretty early on in the season, like sat down with them and I was eating my dinner and watching, and I'm like, that guy looks like he would look good with my jewelry on. And then I saw that he was like Christian and stuff, and I'm like, oh, like this, like maybe I should see if he wants to buy a ring or have a ring or something. And so I just sent him a DM. I'm like, really? Hey, you look like you would look great in my jewelry. And like, I had no clue that he was going to be a finalist, right? So I'm like, just whatever, just to get my jewelry on people. Because at this point, I'm desperate. Yeah. I need people to, I was stuck between trying to figure out like, should I keep giving people things to market for me, or do I stop doing that because I need to make money? Like, so I've given things out that I probably shouldn't have. Like, hey, I actually did it to a couple. I did it to him and then another guy, Kendall. both Christian and they had like tattoos and stuff. And
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is perfect. And they were both so cool and so nice about it and stoked. And so then I'm like, okay, like, yeah. So I sent Kendall a bracelet. And like, I didn't even care at this point if they made it on or not, because I don't watch the show. Like, I was like, whatever. They're musicians. They're going to be traveling. If people ask them about their jewelry, like, it's a walking advertisement, and they're cool people. And I don't like to think of it that way, but like, then I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to find people that are like, quote unquote, like influencers or something, I want them to be people that I really like, that I
align with. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, that I align with, that I enjoy, that are peaceful, that are whatever. So my interactions with both of them were just fantastic. So I made it. And then by the time it was done, he was traveling back to LA to finish the series, because they like pre-record everything months before. Yeah. So he wasn't even in LA. So he's like, well, maybe we should just have you send it to the place that I'm going to be staying down there, like for the lives. And he made it. Like
that's amazing.
It was like, I think it was top 8 or something like that.
That's amazing. And he wore it for the live performances.
Yeah. Well, so it didn't show up for the first one. It was at the place, but like they hadn't given it to him yet, because I watched the live and he wasn't wearing it. And I'm like, woo, like, what did I just do? And then he finally got it, and I just got a picture of his hand with the ring on, and I'm like, oh my god,
so good.
Yeah, so it made it, and he ended up wearing it on the live show. And I was like, the only thing that I'm asking of you is like, if you can see it in your pictures, just tag me. Then he did this post, and he like mentioned me in it and like said stuff about it, and I was like, this is so beyond what I asked for. So it was like, this is, I don't know, it was awesome.
Super rewarding. That is amazing.
Yeah. And then it was like in the finals, and I'm like watching online or live, and watching my ring, and then he gives Reba a hug, and I'm like, oh my god, like my Jordan touched Reba, like, oh, like Snoop Dogg laid his eyes on my jewelry.
Just, I love that. Oh, I love it.
Out in my chair, and it's just such a materialistic thing. I'm like, Laura, what are you doing? But I was like, wait, that's actually just so cool that this kind human being wanted or was willing to do that. Like,
yes,
I don't know. It was so cool. So that's the story behind Danny.
I think that's so cool. That's so cool. Let's if you have a piece of advice for somebody wanting to become a creative entrepreneur, let's talk about that.
There's so many different ways I could go about this, but when you find your area that you are good at, so like, for example, when I noticed silversmithing was like my thing, when you find that and you're truly enjoying it, and you really think that it's something you want to do for a long time, like, don't think of it as like a monetary thing, because anything can make you money if you do it enough. But once you find that, like, just keep doing it. Keep doing it and keep growing. And if you start things and you hate them, just put it aside for a minute, because the skills that you'll need will probably come back around once you're a little bit further. I have projects that I started when I first started silversmithing, and I'm like, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. And now I find them in a box, and I'm like, oh, do that in 5 seconds.
Yes.
But it comes with time.
Yes. And your vision doesn't always match your skill level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And tools and all that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
But I just say to keep that mindset that, like, you're the only person that can stop you from doing it, and you can be you are your own barrier. A lot of outside variables that can come in and try to stop you, but like, a lot of times we're the ones that allow those things to stop. And I think just keep doing it and try new things, because there's so many different ways, and people can say, oh, this will work for you. Like, all the Instagram ads and stuff. Like, oh yeah, do you want to make $1,000 in 2 seconds? Like, sure, that might work for somebody, but like, there's always a way for you to find if that makes any sense. Like,
yes, your avenue is out there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it can take a really long time to find that, but
yes.
And questions, like, just shooting your shot. And if you don't know something, if you want someone's advice, just ask. And first thing they can do is just not answer or something. And then, you're like, well, yeah, then I don't want it anyways.
Mm-hmm. That's 100% true. That's so true.
Yeah, I would say that's it. Just that gritty part. Just keep freaking going.
Yes, don't give up. I love that. If you could give us your website and then any of your social media handles, that would be awesome so people can follow you and hopefully buy a piece of jewelry.
Yeah, absolutely. My Instagram is just velasco.silversmithing, and my website is www.velascosilversmithing.com.
I'm so thankful that you just took the time to be super vulnerable and share your story with me, and it's inspired me so greatly.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I was so excited when you reached out about this because I could sit and talk about this stuff all day long.
Same.
And it's kind of rare to find people that you can do that with, honestly.
Thank you for listening to the Curated Craftsman. You can support this podcast and become a member of our creative community on Patreon. If you were inspired by this conversation, please leave a review, share the show, and subscribe.